head of the Department of Computer Applications at MIT Manipal and the former Deputy Director, Office of International Affairs and Collaborations, MAHE. With his experience in internationalization, he serves as the president of the IST India and he is also the faculty coordinator for ISET Manipal. His research interests are in image processing and he is the team leader of Multimedia Computing and Communications Group. So, Dr. Karunakar, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Shamala Hande. After a wonderful presentation from two stalwarts of internationalization of MAHE Manipal, my job is really tough, I think. But I will try my best to give the justice for the topic given to me. That's about benefits and challenges of internationalization of the curriculum. As Dr. Vinod Bhatt has already mentioned, that most of the things what we all did these days are theoretical discussions, and it's a high time that we need to take these discussions onto the ground and start implementing certain things in a phased manner. I will touch upon some of the ideas that what immediately we can do after this workshop. Wherever possible, what is best possible from our side, we need to start doing it. Dr. Raghu has clearly mentioned that IOC is not same for all the discipline. Each discipline can implement in its own way. Having said that, there is a generic template which may be possible to use it by all the discipline. As he also mentioned, one of the important thing what is to be incorporated into internationalization of curriculum is about acquiring knowledge, skills, and very important thing is attitude. So that also I will try to touch upon. When we look at internationalization, it is not just a curriculum. As both the speakers have already mentioned, it involves teaching, learning, assessment, and also making a student and faculty globally ready for mobility. So that is what I consider internationalization of curriculum. So it will help faculty also, the faculty member who is teaching that course, and also it will help students, and also it will attract students from developed country to India to pursue their technical and science education. Because all these years we have seen students from developed countries are coming to India to see and study Indian heritage, yoga, Ayush, certain interesting things what India is doing. Apart from that, we need to focus because we have good science and technology institutions in this country where we can attract good number of students. If not for a complete course, at least for a short duration, we must try our best to attract students. That is possible with the help of internationalization of the curriculum. When we talk about internationalization of the curriculum, it is a content and a pedagogical approaches. And these are the key vehicles for improving teaching and learning for all students across the globe. Internationalizing the curriculum involves providing students with global perspective of their discipline and giving them a broader knowledge base for their future careers. Students can also be helped to develop set of values, skills to operate in diverse cultural environments. My topic is related to benefits. Here I am going to list out the benefits what both the speakers have mentioned. Apart from that, there may be something additional points also. And at the end of my presentation, I will present the current challenges, what may we have to face when we go for implementing IOC in our higher education institutions. The first one, what Dr. Vinod Bhatt has clearly mentioned, how exactly we can help our graduate to be a global citizen and make him employable globally. So improving the graduate employability is one of the benefit of IOC. Along with that, quality of teaching and learning process. This requires real attention, especially in Indian higher education institutions, because the way how we teach and what our 21st century students want is entirely different, and we can easily find gap between two. When ICT is taking or replacing teachers, how teacher can make himself relevant in his classroom. I strongly believe, being a technology person, that robots can never replace a teacher, because the way how we conduct ourselves in the class, that makes difference. Are we really ready? That is very important point to be noted. So quality of teaching and learning can be improved with the help of IOC. IOC also helps to create international awareness and deeper engagement with global issues by our students. And it also helps to increase international networking by faculty members and researchers of higher education institution. Most of the higher education institution administrators, they think that internationalization is a cost-centric unit of university. Unfortunately, that is not true. It can be easily converted as a revenue generation entity of any higher education institution. But only thing is, your environment, your curriculum, your teaching learning process, everything need to support that, and obviously it can be converted as a revenue generating unit of any university. And strengthening institutional research and knowledge production capacity that can be easily increased if we make our IOC really strong and meaningful in its true spirit. A cultural variation mixed with academics should be exposed and give that exposure to students, so that students will learn a cultural adaptation skills, which is very, very important, especially for Indian students. Enhanced proficiency in soft skills. One of the important things what companies are looking for whenever they recruit is the soft skill. Whether you can put it in curriculum, it is not possible to teach soft skill, but students has to acquire that through our teaching learning process, not exactly in terms of a syllabus or content. Indirectly, we need to make them aware what is soft skill and how they can acquire it. And IOC is going to help for that. And better availability of academic resources. When we make our curriculum really international, we can, attract good number of faculty in the similar domain to teach our courses. Anyway, we are all comfortable, especially after COVID, that we are comfortable in dealing with any online teaching learning process. Use that to a fullest extent possible and increase the academic resources within higher education institution, which is internationally known. So that is very much possible with the help of IOC. And the demographic advantages. So as an Indian students, if you compare the number of students who are college going, in the world, India is producing, more number of ready, employable citizens, and they are ready for, serving the global, place. It's very important, and demographic dividend is with us, and we need to use that to the fullest extent if we implement IOC in our institution and we can attract a good number of students and faculty to India, and also our faculty will get chance to go abroad. So that demographic dividend, whatever we have, we need to use it and increase incoming student and faculty. As I said already, we are attracting foreign students, especially, as Dr. Raghu said, it's most of the time Ayush, yoga, and our cultural heritage. Apart from that, whether we can attract students from developed country, in science and technology domain, at least for a semester, then we can say that yes, our curriculum is really international. So these are set of benefits what we are looking for from internationalizing a curriculum. One of the important thing, how we can make it possible. Internationalizing the curriculum, I am trying to compare that with the competency-based curriculum. What is competency-based curriculum? A curriculum that emphasizes the complex outcome of learning process such as knowledge, skills, and attitude to be applied by learners rather than mainly focusing on what learners are expected to learn about in terms of traditionally defined subject content. Please try to focus knowledge, skills, and attitude. Most of the time in traditional way of teaching, what we are doing is we are teaching students and it helps to improve their cognitive skills. Okay, I am going to discuss about that little later. It helps just a cognitive skill improvement. Whereas the other skills required are very important. Cognitive skills and the analytical skills, the attitude, all these things really matters and which can be covered within competency-based curriculum. In principle, such a curriculum is learner-centric and adaptive. These are two things which are very important, and I personally feel as a teacher, it is missing in Indian classrooms. To changing needs of students, teachers, and in general society. It implies that learning activities and learning environment are chosen so that learners can acquire and apply the knowledge, skills, and attitude to situations they encounter in everyday life. Competency-based curricula are usually designed around a set of key competences that can be cross-curricular or subject-bound. So, competency-based curriculum, what are the essential components of it? The first and the foremost component is clearly stated learning objectives, instructions aligned with learning objectives, evaluation aligned to learning objectives, and cognitive and affective skill practices, psychomotor skill practices, and skill mastery documentation. These are the essential components of competency-based curriculum. And I say strongly that IOC has to be competency-based curriculum. So when we look at learning objective, whatever we define in the curriculum, it should be specific and it should be measurable. We cannot say something which is very generic, and also if you can't measure it, then you can't call it as a learning objective. Learners perform a skill or demonstrate a knowledge, and we need to understand and map it to the learning objectives what we have defined in our course. And also when we are listing it out, we have to list it in a proper order so that whatever we teach and students has to acquire that in that order only. And we need to fill out the form clearly stating learning objectives. We are doing it now also in a traditional curriculum also, but how far we are taking care of that while teaching and assessing students? That is the question which we need to answer. At this moment, I would like to talk about Bloom's taxonomy, and which has a 6 layers, and we can say that it is for learning objectives. What are the things what you need to know before you define learning objective in your course? There are 6 layers, and the lowermost one is remembering, where we recall the facts and the basic concepts, and we reproduce it in the exam and we get the marks. Most of the time, our classroom teaching are restricted only to the lowermost level, and that is what is mentioned clearly in the National Education Policy as a rote learning, which we need to stop. So, rote learning is nothing but whole course you are trying to remember the concepts and the basics and reproduce it wherever required. The next level, I am not saying that remembering is not good. Remembering only facts, that is good. Okay, one who can remember, he can recall and he can do it very well. But the next level is understanding. How do you know that student has understood the concept? If students can explain the concepts to teacher or his peer group, then you can say that yes, this student has achieved the second, the lowermost level. So the third one is applying. Whatever he has understood, whether he can apply it in a new situation, that need to be ensured. Most of the time, our Indian classrooms end here. Okay, at the maximum, we take them up to apply. But what is the next level? The next level is any real-time problem can be solved in various methods. It is not one solution. There are n solutions which are available for a given problem. And which one is the best? And how to choose the best? What are the parameters which says that that is the best? That level is analyzing. There may be n solutions for a given problem. If student can analyze it and draw connections among the ideas, whatever is listed out, then you can say that he has achieved that level of analyzing. The next level is evaluating. Out of n solutions, he is going to take out one which is the best according to the parameter chosen, and if a student can justify that, then you can say that yes, he has reached the second most level, that is the evaluate. And the topmost level is creating. That means if a student is capable of creating something new, which is his original work, and it is the effect of our course, then we can say that he has reached that pinnacle of the Bloom's taxonomy, that is creating something new. What I mean to say is, whenever we teach in the classroom, we need to teach so that all these levels, a student will acquire for a particular course what we are delivering. So, when we define the learning objective, also we need to take care of this, and the objectives has to be verified, and that verification itself we call it as assessment. And how is evaluation aligned to a learning objectives in the curriculum? Objectives indicate how learning has to be evaluated here. Because we have defined, we already taught that course, how to know that, whether that objective, whatever we have defined, is met or not. That is the job of teacher. What we are doing now, we take out the question paper, we see that whether all the questions are mapped to one or the other objectives. If that question is attempted by the student, then we say that yes, that course objective is met. That is not the way to do it. And assessment is not only by examination. Each discipline, each course can have its own way of assessment. Examination is not only assessment. So recalling, arranging, differentiating, designing, all these things need to be evaluated for a given problem by the student. One thing which is stated even in National Education Policy is about formative assessment. And we have started implementing the formative assessment in terms of internal assessment. So what we do is, rather than evaluating a student at the end of the course, which we usually call it as a summative assessment, we have to check students' learning at the end of each module or a particular chapter, so that ask him to demonstrate and ensure that he has understood whatever we taught. And that is itself is formative assessment. What is the advantage of formative assessment? If we know that now student has not understood whatever I have delivered, then obviously he can go back and teach, or he can help slow learners in a different way so that he understands the concept, and then only you can go ahead. And anyway, there is a summative assessment at the end of learning of course. And how is evaluation aligned? You can also check with the help of different tests, a writing or written or a cognitive test, quizzes, self-checks, rubrics, portfolios. These are all common things what we are doing. And here, what need to be focused, what Dr. Raghu also has mentioned, is knowledge, skill, and attitude. So, one of thing is the cognitive skills. Okay, teaching, evaluating, and reteach if necessary, so that he understands, he acquires the knowledge whatever teacher is delivering in the classroom. And conduct end of unit review, so that if something is not understood by the student, go back and reteach. Step-by-step checklist for psychomotor skills. So when we talk about psychomotor skills, we all know, as an engineer or some doctors can easily understand that a given problem is handled by different students in a different way. Whenever there is a problem, one student can solve it very fast, the other may take little extra time. One student's, a skill is really good, is very good in his hand, and the other may not be. So as a teacher, we need to assess psychomotor skills and also help students to improve psychomotor skills. Pencil and paper activities, assignment sheet with rubrics for cognitive and affective skills are very important. And one of the important aspect is when we talk about affective, what is affective skill? It's most of the times I say that it is an attitude of a learner towards learning. Because when we talk about learning happens in the classroom not only by teachers, a peer learning. There are some students who are very quick learners, and especially when that is discussed and debated with their peer group, their learning ability is improving like anything. But whether student is open for discussing it in the classroom, if it is not, then it is not a good attitude. As a teacher, we need to help them to improve their affective skills. So that can be done, but you can't put it as a course content. But our evaluation process, our teaching methodologies should incorporate that, where students will develop very good attitude towards teaching learning process. So challenges, my last topic is getting started. We all know theoretically that these are the things what is required. But unless and until we start, we means as a higher education institution, whoever is responsible for implementing this, they have to start at one point. And that is what is blocking us from implementing IOC in our curriculum. And the next point, what I personally feel is changing the mindset. It's very important, because unless and until, I feel that I need to do it. That is important. And that is what is 21st century kids need. And how I can challenge my kids in my classrooms. So if anybody wants to do that, then the first thing is changing the mindset of academic administrators and teachers. It's very difficult, not that easy. Involving senior academic administrators. We all know practical difficulties. When we talk about implementation, it's senior academic leaders. They are the people who are responsible for implementing it on the ground. But are they flexible? Most of the times when they reach that level, usually they will have some 20-25 years of experience. How adaptive for a new change. Because whatever change we are putting in front of them, it is not just a small change DX. It's a lateral shift. And they have to involve the whole team for that. And it is an additional burden or workload for them if they think so. So we have to involve senior academic administrator in the process of IOC. Exposure to teachers. Most of the time, as Indian teachers, we don't have much exposure on international platforms. Especially we have not worked, in teaching and learning, especially in top universities. But higher education institution, wherever we are working, it should take this issue seriously and train the teacher to teach in a different environment across the border and make them ready to accept IOC in the institution. Unless and until we give them that exposure, it is not possible to include them within this, or they don't understand and appreciate the requirement of IOC. Budgetary provisions. As I said earlier, internationalization is not cost-centric. It's a revenue-centric. So I personally feel that we have to convince the administrators that yes, please keep the budget separately for this process, because it is going to generate more revenue for the university in a long run. So that we need to convince and then get the budgetary provision for that. Academic autonomy. And even in NEP, New Education Policy, they say that a faculty who teaches has to evaluate and give grade. That is what happens. But in Indian classrooms, it is not like that. Somebody is teaching, somebody have prepared the syllabus, somebody is teaching in the classroom, somebody is going to set the question paper, somebody will evaluate and he will get the result. A teacher who taught student in the classroom will never get a chance to evaluate. But NEP is very vocal about it, and it says that teachers should get autonomy to the maximum extent possible. But why I call it as a challenge? If autonomy is given to us, are we ready to accept it? That is what I consider as a challenge. All teachers are not ready, or in unbiased way, they are not ready for accepting this autonomy, because it needs practice. And I feel that is also a challenge to implement IOC, because without autonomy, there is no meaning to IOC. And when we talk about assessment, now even in NEP, they say that, the whole assessment pattern, okay, we should not call it as examination. What we are doing is we are giving a set of questions, a template, and most of the times in Indian, bookshops, you will get question and paper solution also. So that we have to come out of that mindset, and given autonomy, a faculty has to use it and do formative assessment in the classroom. If it is done, it is good. But as of now in Karnataka, when NEP is implemented, they suggested that approximately 40% is formative assessment and 60% is summative. And over a period of next 10 to 15 years, it should be 60-40. That is what is the guideline given. But if you ask me as a faculty, I need 100% formative assessment only, because I cannot set a question paper and it is 3-hour duration, 5 questions, and you evaluate. That is not the way to go ahead. We need to change assessment policy also. But whether it is easily doable, that is the question in front of us. I feel these are the challenges. And also, one of the important things which we should never forget is what is the number of students in each classrooms. Even though we say that the teacher-student ratio is 12 to 15, but when we teach a particular course in the classrooms, there are 60 students, 80 students in a class. Is it possible to do formative assessment? Is it possible to evaluate student independently? That is the challenge to implement IOC. Having said that, whether it is impossible to do it, no. There are several institutions and universities who have already implemented IOC in their universities and campuses. I'm sure that most of us, we can do it in a phased manner in years to come. And there is one beautiful case study by Federation University, Australia, and that link I'm going to share with you. Please go through that, whoever is interested. It is not a rocket science. It's only mindset which can make our syllabus really, really international in its true spirit. Thank you very much for the opportunity given. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Karunakar, for a crisp and clear presentation on the ground realities of internationalization of curriculum and its implementation. I'm sure many of our participants will concur with these views. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next session is the importance